Hello everyone, my name is Nico Rich and welcome to the neighborhood. And I'm joined by some two very iconic guests. You want to give us your names here?
I will. My name is David Newell, but you may remember me as Mr. McFeely, Speedy Delivery for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's me.
And that is you. I am John Massalonis, the manager of PR from the Heart and the founder of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, the co-host of the program that David has been a special part of over the last 5 years. And it's a pleasure to be here in your neighborhood, Nico.
All right, thank you guys. I greatly appreciate you coming out here today and to join us with the interview and everything. So, I've got a few questions I'd love to ask you guys and everything. But first, I want to give some context to the viewers at home. So this marks your 5th anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. Am I correct in everything?
That is correct.
John can explain a little bit about that.
Tell us about this milestone. Like, how does it feel to be doing this for 5 years? How does it feel?
Well, if I may borrow a phrase from Fred's verbiage, it really is such a good feeling. So the program has become one of the most popular, longest-running children's book review programs for parents, educators, and librarians across the United States and Canada and around the world, having the opportunity to spotlight children's books ranging from celebrities to prominently traditionally published authors and self-published and hybrid published authors. The world of children's literature is a beautiful space, but it's also a very crowded, competitive marketplace. And I know that one of the things that I've been very fortunate to do is, as I'm a publicist and have been for nearly 13 years, noting the fact that everyone has beautiful stories to share. And when we all share our stories, we can help more people. There's more magic, there's many miracles that happens in the process. And so how David and I connected with one another is we go back to, actually there's a Point Park connection, believe it or not. So Point Park alumnus Colton DeBias, who actually was an integral part of different things here on campus, he had an initiative called Live Like Fred. And so he reminded everyone of the importance of expressing kindness and love, beginning with yourself and then, radiating that out into the world. And I remember after my grandmother had passed away in the summer of 2013, I was moving through some challenging times in my life. And I remember being part Polish, we refer to our grandmothers as babcia, and I prayed to my grandmother and I says, can you send me a compassionate, gentle, masculine role model to really help me learn to re-love myself, be kinder to myself, be kind to other people. And that's when I started getting, Mr. Rogers kind of came back into my life. And so I started rewatching some older episodes of the program. And then at that point, it's interesting because it was almost like divine synchronicity, so to speak, and synergy, because this is around the time where Morgan Neville's documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, came out. Morgan Neville, of course, the Academy Award-winning filmmaker in the process. And I remember through connecting with Colton, he had the chance to interview David. And then I had the chance to interview David. There was a program that I hosted for a period of time called the Shining Star Series. And David and I had this wonderful conversation. And both of us obviously share a mutual affinity for Fred Rogers. Obviously, David had the chance to not only meet Fred, but spend an immense amount of time with him. And we really asked ourselves, like, what can we do to make the world a better place? We didn't necessarily, our plan was to just see how we can help people and support people. And David, began noticing the work that I was doing with PR from the Heart. And then really from there, it evolved into, let's take the time and talk about children's books. And interestingly enough, when we were coming up with a name for the program, we started off with the Neighborly Reviews. And David said, is this a podcast? No, wait a minute, it's a bookcast. So the full name of the program was Christened and Born, and we now fast forward 5 years later, and we find ourselves again at Point Park University. And the entire university, is specifically Point Park University. I want to give a big shout out to them if I can, Nico, because through the course of the program, traditionally what David and I take the time to do is he's out in Pittsburgh, I'm in San Diego, and we do the episodes remotely. So we'll share some of the high-resolution JPEG illustration spreads in terms of the book's cover arts, the illustration spreads. But when we have the opportunity to be here at Point Park, we've literally had authors from across the country and around the world travel here. And so Point Park has played an instrumental role in the success of the book cast. But one of the cool things as well that I just also want to mention about the program is the fact that, for those who are familiar with the iconic Christmas classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and if you remember Burl Ives, have a holly jolly Christmas, right? So Burl Ives kind of narrated Rudolph's journey. And that's similar to what we do in our own way through the course of the program, where we'll take the time to share some of the key heartfelt themes and messages that are found through the course of the stories, why the books are essential resources for kids. And, David, I know that one of the things that we really hone in on especially is that we're not here to be critical. We live in a very divisive, critical society, so we really want to let parents and educators and librarians know what is available and on the market for parents to choose for their kids, for grandparents to choose for their grandchildren, for educators to choose for their students.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
And so here we are, in a condensed nutshell.
Yeah. And again, I thank you guys for what you're doing. What you're doing is making such a positive impact, for children's youth and everything when growing up. And I see that you have some books here and everything.
We do.
You want to show off some of your work to the camera here and everything?
Absolutely. So while we are here at Point Park University, we are recording our April and May bookcast episodes. For those who are watching this on the UView YouTube channel and are watching this in the future, it's episodes number 60 and 61. So as part of our April bookcast, episode number 60, we're also celebrating National Financial Literacy Month. And really, it's important for us to be able to have conversations with our kids and teach them about the importance of saving, investing, but also giving back as well. So one of the featured members of the PR from the Hart family is a children's author by the name of Shireen Edelblut, and she has penned a beautiful children's book series that is entitled Fintail. So she teaches kids about financial literacy. She has her first story, which is called Keys to My Heart, and the story is about a young girl named Sahana who is wanting a piano and to bring that into her life, but money is tight at home and she can't afford it. Her parents can't afford it, actually. So she really learns through the course of this story the importance of earning and saving and spending wisely, and she really connects with kindness within herself, and most importantly, it's something that really teaches kids about perseverance as well, too. As I mentioned with children's books, like we all have music to share, and hence the whole music analogy with Keys to My Heart. And then there's also the second installment in the Fintail series, which is Garage Sale Gold Mine. So it's about two brothers, Benny and Eddie, and they want to have a toy robot. But, sometimes easier said than done. You have to, kids have to learn a little bit. It's not just, okay, you can have this and you can have this in the process. So they get creative. They want to be able to get this toy robot. But in the process, they learn about different things as well, how to be able to earn money, how to be able to save in the process, where just because if you necessarily make money, you don't necessarily have to spend it right away as well, too. So just imagine if, beginning at a very early age, because children's really tend to have their beliefs set at a certain point in time. So one of the things that really Shireen is doing her part to do is to connect with children at a very young age so that she can really shape and mold them to have confidence with regards to finances and really destigmatize the whole issue tied into money in general.
But it's also to get books in the hands of children.
Yes.
No matter what the book subject is, because today they're on their iPads.
Devices.
But books are so important. And if we can just get books into children's hands, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you guys are doing this. Storytelling is such an important aspect in the world today, and people need that type of story. And a lot of people, are kind of really wanting those stories, those lived experiences shared within the world. And it's truly remarkable of what you guys are doing, especially with writing books for children's. I mean, that is such a big thing. I mean, I remember growing up, I used to read all these children's books, and I still remember it to this day. And really, like, meeting with, storytellers, and me being kind of like into journalism myself, I want to ask you, do you guys have like any advice for storytellers out there in the world wanting to spread their experiences, their ideas to other people? Like, what advice would you give to those people?
David?
Oh, boy. I think this would be my advice if I were writing a book, which I hope to do. I would love the topic. I picked something that I truly love to write about and hope that children will love the same thing I do. I don't know if that makes sense, but but it goes back to my love of reading when I was growing up. The other thing, one of the most important things you can do for your child is read to them. I'm talking about a younger, and it's the bonding. The book could be anything. It's the bonding of the parent or the grandparent and the child that's the most important. So that book has another important factor beyond just reading.
And
It's the
technically,
bonding.
they could read the phone book.
They can read the phone book,
I don't know
yes.
if we have phone books in this day and
Not
age,
many.
but knowing the fact that being able to kind of piggyback off of what David had shared is the importance of sharing those stories. There's a lot of children and even grown adults that struggle with self-worth. And one of the things that I feel that Fred Rogers, in his own unique way that he reminded us, is that we all have inherent worth, skills, gifts, talents, and sometimes we can question our own worth and say, if I write this book or if I share my story, who's going to care? Who's going to listen? Maybe outside of the immediate context of family and friends. But noting the fact this is one of the driving factors, one of my whys, why I do my work at PR for the Heart, is noting the fact that these books, getting them into the hands of not only kids, but also families and classrooms and libraries as well too. There's something really is healing about children's books as well too, David.
And there's one of these books is about autism, and I knew very little about autism, and I learned from reading a children's book more about autism than I ever knew.
It's a beautiful way of sharing the fact that there really is a connection between learning and literacy. Two of the other books that we're actually going to be featuring as part of the 5-year anniversary celebration of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, if I may briefly mention, Dr. Susie Gray, who is a former elementary school teacher and practitioner out in the Southern California area. So she has her first children's book that is titled Lily and the Fairy Cake, a story for autism spectrum disorder. So Lily is a fairy, and she tends to feel a little bit different from her other fairies that are surrounding her in the process, and she really likes to just live this secluded, peaceful kind of life. She doesn't know how to make friends. She's just very, struggling within her own self in many respects, but she lands up coming across a new fairy friend named Bolt, who lands up really reminding her and teaching her the importance of trusting herself and really celebrating your strengths and not necessarily to look at things as differences. We live in a world where there's a lot of children that are neurodivergent in many respects, and it's very easy to place a label and say your child has autism, or
But before you go into that book,
Yeah.
you mentioned you read books. Do you remember which ones you liked?
I read a lot of Pete the Cat books. I read
yep.
What book?
Pete the Cat.
Pete the
It
Cat?
was-
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
It was he always has this cool brand new shoes and sneakers and everything. What else did I read? I watched the pigeon stole the bus.
Oh,
I think.
yes,
The
yes.
pigeon drove the bus. I
Yes,
believe.
Yep.
I remember that.
Yeah, but again, with this book right here, I really think this is remarkable too, because with a sibling with special needs at home, I think that spreading this type of awareness to children is so important, and I love that you are doing this within your books and everything, and teaching all these children many different things and how they can apply these to the world to grow up into a nice, just human being. And that's the goal. The most important aspect of a person's life is their childhood, and
Yes.
kind of having this story time with them is one of, I think, the foundations of building that childhood
yes,
into
you're right.
becoming a good person. That's pretty much what it's all about, and it's, again, I love that.
Is your sibling younger or older?
My sibling is older. Yeah, I have an older sister and everything that has Down syndrome and everything. So, and I really like that you're doing this story. really
I
do.
think she'd like you to read her one of these books.
Well, and thank you for sharing some of your story with us as well, Nico, and noting the fact that there's even not only children that struggle with those kinds of challenges in the process, but they're really connecting more with their own gifts within to kind of tie into what we were sharing previously. Dr. Susie Gray also has her newest children's book, which is entitled Teddy the Bear, A Story for Anxiety. And I think this is one that all of us, even as us as big kids, can relate to, So Teddy the bear has his first day of school, and he's really struggling through what we all can experience. Like, I mean, how many here watching at Point Park University remembers their first day?
Oh, yes.
And, oh, you know, am I going to fit in? Am I going to get straight A's this semester? Am I on the right track to success? What's going to happen? I mean, you can kind of have your own insecurities and your own doubts. So Teddy has his, you know, a racing mind. He's very anxious, but he really discovers, thanks to both his mom and his dad, how he can be with those big feelings and be with those big emotions, and that if there is anxieties that come up, that he can have his own practice, that he can be with the feelings and the emotions that are coming up, but that he can also focus on how delicious, for example, this water is right here at Point Park University. It's such amazing purified water, right? So let's say if I was moving through an anxious thought right now, I can connect with this water and just focus on this so much that I can just say, by the time I'm done drinking this water and having this conversation with Nico and David, I'm not feeling that anxiety anymore. And again, these are stories that kids can relate to, because I feel that one of the things that Shireen, that Dr. Susie, and many of the authors who we featured on the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, children's books are non-judgmental. They're also very healing. So I always encourage parents and educators, caregivers, grandparents, whomever is watching over a child. It's almost like a spiritual science experiment. Like, let's say do a little emotional check-in, drop in, see how you're doing, see how you're feeling right now. Start reading a book, and then see how you feel afterwards. It's almost like a lightness that you tend to feel in the process.
And I remember in college taking a course in children's literature. And there is, a lot of universities have that, the English departments mainly. And I learned so much from that course. I also took Victorian novel, which was, I was an English major.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so many children's books have so much information in, and I'd recommend. I hope some of your students here, if they ever have a chance to take a class.
We definitely have a lot of opportunities here at Point Park with storytelling classes, like short storytelling, all these different ways that can develop your unique skills within storytelling, and people that are wanting to become authors one day. And like, despite all the like stories and like the themes of how to tell stories, I want to talk more about your bookcast here. So like, looking back on all these episodes that you have made over the years, is there a particular memory or moment that stands out as your guys' favorite?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Shall I go or you go?
I'll start. It's interesting because some of the best things on the bookcast, technically, people don't say. And it's what happens. Some people may call it the cutting room floor, so to speak, because I mean, I've been very fortunate to become friends with David over the years, and noting the fact that just the conversations that we have, when, you know, I ask David how his wife Nan is doing and how his kids are doing and how his grandkids are doing. I know that every holiday season, David loves spending time with his grandkids, and just noticing the fact that, you know, we've been able to create this friendship and this colleagueship as well through the course of the bookcast as well, and that's on a personal note. Being able to take the time and just share these different kinds of messages, noting the fact that that literally a platform has been created where if someone is a first-time children's author, they can have their book shared on the program. You don't necessarily have to be a celebrity or a New York Times best-selling author or a traditionally published author. And a lot of authors who are just getting into the industry, so to speak, or even if they've only been around the block for a little bit, they can find themselves struggling, facing rejection. Maybe they're still looking to secure an agent or a traditional publisher, so they have to go down the route for the time being of self-published. But go ahead, David.
I was thinking, what was the name of the truck?
Oh, Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck.
There's a book called Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck, which I thought was wonderful because it's a little boy and his mom in this big red pickup. And you usually see dads driving a big red truck. And it was so refreshing to see Mommy's Big Red Truck. And I like to see books like that for children because it expands the world. And that was my favorite book, to answer your question, that we read over the years. Oh, there's so many. We've done about 100 books.
It's probably over 100 books now. And also just noting the fact that, again, different kinds of books, different kinds of stories. So been very fortunate to work with one of the top authors and illustrators in the industry by the name of John Parra. He has his art collection featured in Target stores nationwide. He has his own postage stamp series through the USPS. He had, at one point in time not too long ago, presented his work to Supreme Court Justice Sona Sotomayor. So he has his newly illustrated book, Vive Valenzuela, which, you know, we're Pirates fans here in Pittsburgh, but for those Dodgers fans that are watching out there, Fernando Valenzuela was an iconic pitcher that blazed his own trail in the 1980s with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he illustrated and literally brought Fernando's 1981 rookie season to life. He also has his first authored illustrated book called Growing an Artist, The Story of a Landscaper and His Son, which is a love letter to his father, Del. John is, he's one of the kindest hearts, one of the most talented guys in the world of children's literature. Another author that we want to give a shout out to is Dr. Julie McDonald. She is a phenomenal educator in the St. Louis area. She has created the award-winning children's book, The Flowers in Grandma's Garden, A Bailey and Button Story. And that really helps kids who are struggling with bullying, because oftentimes, you know, I mean, even you probably see it here, unfortunately, at Point Park, you know, kids can feel bullied. You want to, ultimately, kids want to feel accepted, seen, heard, felt, appreciated. And so it's a very sweet story how this little girl, thanks to reconnecting to her own confidence within, through the support of her mother and her grandmother, they really remind her that, you know, that which is meant for you will not pass you by. The right friends, the right relationships.
I was going to ask,
Go ahead.
being in journalism, have you ever thought of writing a book?
I've given it thoughts. I think personally right now, I'm too busy with college, but
Yes.
I think in the future I might want to publish a book.
Fiction or what? Biography?
That's a good question. I'm still in the idea phase,
That's
but
okay.
I'll get back to you at some point. So,
Well,
Maybe someday we'll see it on the
yeah,
bookshelf.
maybe. That would be a dream come true. But yeah.
And I will add in, Nico, I mean, the importance of, you know, for those who feel that they have a story to share, it's important to just honor where you're at in your journey, to trust the timing. I was very fortunate to write and release my first award-winning children's book, Walking Each Other Home, Zachary's Mission, a Hospice for Children.
I was going to ask you about that. Tell us
Sure.
what that's about.
So the story itself is inspired by, in many respects, real-life people through the course of my life. The story is about a brave 8-year-old boy named Zachary who is battling a life-limiting illness, terminal cancer. And through the story, he lands up having a dream. God comes to him in a dream and lets him know that, listen, I know you're feeling worried. I know that you're feeling troubled, you and your family, but fear not. I have an important mission that I'm going to give to you, which is to help create a children's hospice for terminally ill children in San Diego, specifically La Jolla, which is what many people refer to as the Jewel of San Diego. But there are 4 earth angels that God sends into Zachary's life and his family's life, and these are the real life people through the course of my life, my earth angels that helped me through the course of my own journey. So there is Dennis, the Italian restaurant owner, who is inspired by my dear friend and very much a father figure to me, Dennis DiPaolo, the owner of a very prominent Italian restaurant in Western New York, from where I'm from, Elio DiPaolo's restaurant. So there's Dennis. Then there's Jane, the loving grandmother. There is Georgianne, the animal-loving storyteller, inspired by my dear friend Georgianne Irvine from the San Diego Zoo, and Patrick, the Reiki master, who's one of my former practitioners. So they all come to San Diego to help Zachary and his family to raise the necessary funds for the hospice. But along the way, they teach him about the different meanings of unconditional love. So, for example, Jane teaches and reminds Zachary that unconditional love can look like spending quality time with the ones that you love. Dennis teaches Zachary, reminds him that unconditional love can look like cooking a meal for someone who's hungry or someone in need. So they land up raising the necessary funds for the hospice. Zachary is elated knowing that his mission is complete, but at the same point in time, now that his mission is complete, he feels that now he can make peace with this situation. He can go home to heaven. So the whole premise of the story is that love never dies, that it only changes form.
Now, what's the name of it again? Tell them the name of it again.
Walking Each Other Home, Zachary's Mission, a Hospice for Children. As I mentioned to you off camera, Nico, the work that I do at PR from the Heart really is part of the long-term vision, which is to help create, Zachary's mission in many respects is my own, to help create a children's hospice for terminally ill children. And I do envision, I got this vision for part of the hospice, so having the chance to travel across the country in the work that I do at the Children's Hospital in Tucson, Arizona, they have a library that's really carved out of a tree. And when you walk through the tree, there are books that are inside of it. And so I envision that all of these books, with all of these authors whom I have the chance to work with and spotlight their work and help them in terms of PR publicity for their author journey, that these books will be featured in the Children's Hospice one day. So a portion of all proceeds of all sales from the book are going towards the eventual creation of the
And
hospice.
all those books were made from a tree.
That is true. That is true. You see how everything comes full circle when you're watching here on YouView.
Yeah, that's great. I really love what you guys are doing. I can't even say it enough, but it's really great. But again, I have some personal questions
Sure.
for a couple of you. I do want to start off with you, David. Now, the first question I want to ask, and I think it's a question that a lot of people want to ask, is what was it like working alongside Fred Rogers, and what is something you learned from him?
Oh, boy. It was pure joy working with Fred Rogers. You worked with him, not for him. He was a genius. He wrote all of his own material. He wrote the songs. He hosted the show. He manipulated the puppets. It was his idea, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it started on a very small budget and finally grew into being internationally known. But Fred was the kind of person that you'd walk into his office to ask him a question about something that we were going to do in the program. And if he were working or writing, he would stop what he was doing, look you straight in the eye, and give you his entire attention. He was a magnificent man to work for, very kind, very funny. He had a great sense of humor. And a lot of that humor came out in King Friday, the puppet King Friday. You know King Friday, right? Yes, you do. There's King Friday the Third. You'd know him. He had a crown. At any rate, Fred was the real thing, and his mission was to create the best possible television he could for young children, and he did that. I think Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street are everybody knows what they are.
The cornerstones.
They're cornerstones of
Cornerstones,
children's
yep.
broadcasting, yes.
And that's what the people are looking for nowadays, the real thing, the real story. And this is what it is. It's just like the books, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, like this is the story for the children to learn and to grow from. And and again, doing this type of stuff makes you become such like an iconic part of like a child's growth, pretty much. It's truly is remarkable. And another thing I want to ask you is, what message from the show do you think is the most important for the younger generations to hear right now?
Somebody once asked Fred, if you could sum up your mission in one word, Fred said, listen. Listen to other people. Listen to what your children are saying. Don't read the paper and talk to your child at the same time. Give that 100% listening. And I think that's what I learned from Fred, personally, and just how he did on the program too. Yeah. But talking to a camera is not easy. When that red light comes on, you're talking to millions of kids, but it's tough. It's not easy to be very personal through a cold television camera. And Fred had that knack because he had that mission. He wanted to use it in the best way he could, television.
And one of the things just to briefly piggyback off of what you had mentioned, one of the quotes that I took away from watching the Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, was, I forget who had actually shared it during the documentary, but Fred treated the space between between where he was and where the kids were watching through television as holy and sacred ground.
Yes. Anything in between there, like between us, it's a children's program. That's holy ground there. So do the best you can if you're producing programs for young children, or anybody for that matter, but do the best you can. He always said we have this marvelous television. Things are changing now, but when he first started, we have this marvelous television. There's so much good that can be done. And what he saw on it was people throwing pies in each other's face. Yeah. So he wanted to change that. So that's why Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood came to be.
I remember watching a documentary on Mr. Rogers and everything, and that he wanted to change the aspect of television and how it was presented, and
media,
more so
yes.
how it was presented to children, definitely.
Yes.
And it truly is remarkable. And again, what you mentioned about him listening is one thing that I think we should all take from him, is the ability to listen and to learn and to grow as people. And that's what the main goal is. And you know, from the way I see it, Fred Rogers, you know, he listened to everyone, and that's what is so valuable, and that's such a thing that is needed today, and just to listen and to understand and talk, and
that's a lesson.
Yeah.
That's a real lesson, and if you can do that one thing, and it shows a respect for that person, it shows a respect for a child, it shows a respect for childhood,
yeah,
by just simply listening to what a person is saying.
Yep.
And he does on television, you know, he always was torn because he didn't want the children at home think that he could hear them. And he would go out of his way to say, "Now, it's a picture, and you can see and hear me, but I can't see and hear you." He went out of his way a lot to explain that to children. Oh, one time, a little child said, yes, he said, "Oh," a little child told me, Fred on the street or somewhere, "Oh, how did you get out of the television set?" And Fred said, "Well, now it's a picture, and they do this and do this." And he took everything in, and then the child said, "Well, how are you going to get back in?" He didn't, so it didn't register.
Yep.
But there's been a lot of stories like that over the years working with Fred that I've learned and try to apply them to my life too.
Again, it's truly remarkable. And another question I wanted to ask, a good friend recommended me to ask this to you. So I heard that your Mr. McFeely jacket is now a collection at the National Museum of American History. What was it like knowing something so meaningful from the show is preserved there? Like, what does that mean to you?
You know, that means a lot to me. I couldn't believe it when they said they wanted my jacket. I have 6 jackets that I used over the years, and they picked out the one they wanted, Smithsonian. And they have my hat, too, one of the hats. And it's in if you ever want to go to the Smithsonian, it's the pop culture end of Smithsonian. And it's there, and there's Fred's sneakers are here, my jacket, my hat, and I think one of the Muppets are there, too. It's all in the pop culture part of the Smithsonian. So if you're ever in D.C., take a visit to the Smithsonian. I'm there. I finally made it into a museum. They're going to put me there someday anyhow.
That's awesome. And again, I really thank you guys for coming out here. It's great. Now, another question I want to ask for the both of you, you know, with the bookcast, what type of community do you feel like you have built over the years with this bookcast? Like, how do you feel of the community that you have built? What do you think of that?
Loyal and supportive.
Pardon me?
Loyal and supportive.
Yeah, it is loyal and supportive. We don't get to meet everyone, obviously, but there is you can feel it.
Yep.
At least I can, and it's every time we do a bookcast, I feel we're helping promote books. I keep saying that, but that's what we're doing. It's so important to read, and I can't get that point across enough, I guess.
And that's something especially, and I'm glad that you hit on that, David, because just in the world in which we live in, it's very fast-paced, and to take the time and just decompress, read a story, and to just take down or put away the digital devices for the time being, there really is something magical in many respects with that, to also tie into the thread of the loyal and the loyal and supportive nature of the program, those who tune in, and those who spread the word on the program. There are people that are likely just learning about the program, the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, by watching YouView. And so just remaining also very appreciative and grateful and grounded and humble, because ultimately, like, it's kind of big world, small world, like the world of children's literacy, the world at large, big world, small world. So noting the fact that if you can just do your part, you know, one of the things that's it's really related to a certain extent with my work at PR from the Heart, but really how I lead my life every day. I always ask myself when I wake up, what can I do to not even just help and support someone, but I do my part to focus on the we. And in many respects, society wants us to always focus on the I. To a healthy extent that is important. You have to focus on yourself so that you can be of greater service and help to other people. But when you focus on the we, it's so interesting how the me gets taken care of. And having the opportunity, I'm actually going to be doing a special signing at the American Library Association's annual conference and exhibition, which is where librarians from across the country are converging in this particular instance this summer to Chicago. I'm going to have the opportunity to sign copies of my book there, spread the word about the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. It literally is one library at a time. It is one classroom at a time. It is one author at a time. It is one bookcast at a time.
Okay. And do you have a website of the sort to share to the viewer at home of where people can listen to your bookcast or where people can learn more information about this?
Absolutely.
You know better than
and that
I.
would be, of course, you can visit prfromtheheart.com. You can, of course, watch any or all of the now depending upon when this makes air, but in total, through the 5-year anniversary celebration, we will be up to 61 bookcasts in length. So again, we're talking at least well over 100 books. You can subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, join the more than 30,000 loyal members of the PR from the Heart family, and continue to take the time to spread the word on the program. Now, the bookcast is not stopping at any given point in time, and soon, in fact, you're actually getting a little sneak peek of one of the books to come post 5-year anniversary celebration of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. And this is a story that many of us can relate to. This is the brand new children's book from children's book author and illustrator Ruth Dawn Shevlin. She has her new children's book entitled Esmeralda and the Lollipop Tree. So, brief little backdrop on Ruth. She had her first story that she wrote many years ago called Rebecca's Dream That Wasn't. She kind of tucked it away in a dresser drawer. It took nearly 50 years for the story to be published. So coming off the heels of the release of Rebecca's Dream That Wasn't, she's released Esmeralda and the Lollipop Tree. It's a story that really is reminding all of us how sharing means caring. When we take the time to share with other people, we become stronger, we become smarter, we realize that we can't do it alone in the process, and really reminding us that life is also sweet. It's important to take the time to enjoy the delicacies in life, of course, in moderation. While we were in the Pittsburgh area together, we actually had a nice lunch at Ponderosa Steakhouse. And so I hadn't had Ponderosa Steakhouse in 30 years, but this goes back to the whole enjoying the delicacies in life in moderation. But this is going to be one of the books as part of episode number 62 of the bookcast, the June 2026 episode. And you can also continue to not only support the bookcast, but one of the ways that you can pledge your support for children's authors like Shireen, like Dr. Susie, like Ruth Dawn Shevlin as well, is to leave 5-star reviews on Amazon for all of these authors' books in the process, be able to share some kind words on social media. It really doesn't take a lot to pledge support, whether it be downloading an ebook, leaving that 5-star review. The importance of just, as you said, David, this is putting a perfect bow on our conversation, really pledging your support for children's literacy, because ultimately, no matter what side of the aisle that we're on, we want the best for our kids. We want our kids to become the highest and best and most authentic versions of themselves. Reading is one of the lifelines that will really further that along in the process and bring families together to create more unity instead of more division in life.
And speaking the best for children, there is a follow-up to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that maybe you don't know about. It's called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Okay. And it's animated, and it's on public broadcasting every day, and that's sort of the follow-up to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So Fred's legacy that started in 1954 is still going. He started public television in this country, and the legacy is still going on with Daniel Tigers.
And if you're actually watching on the YouView YouTube channel, say that 10 times fast, very soon there's going to be an official Mr. Rogers Neighborhood YouTube channel, and I believe it's going to be featuring some full-length episodes, clips. There'll probably be more information that will be released at some point in time soon, but that's going to be great.
All these students are going to have enough time for all this, but we're telling you anyhow.
Exactly.
All right, well, listen, these are all the questions I have and everything. I thank you guys again coming out here today to talk more about your books. You guys are doing such an amazing impact, and I would hope more people will learn from this and do the same thing as well, and continue this impact in everything, and making the world more kind to each other. And it's, again, remarkable what you guys are doing.
Well, let us know when you have your book out.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know. Yeah.
But before we go, I'm going to count to 3, and we're going to look at the camera, and we're all going to say speedy delivery.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
That's there it is, the
This
red light.
camera right here.
1, 2, 3.
Speedy delivery.
And as we like to say, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of Pittsburgh and our little neighbors around the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors,
At
and our
Point Park.
fellow shining stars. That's how we close out every Neighborly Reviews bookcast. And continue to support your local libraries, your children's and independent bookstores. They really are the pillars of our community.
They are.
David always loves when I use the term pillars of our community.
So we've answered. Any more questions? Is that?
That's it. All right.
We'll do part 2 someday.
We'll do part 2 someday. Well,
Okay, speedy delivery.
all right. Well, that ends that. Now let's send it back to the desk. I'm Nico Rich, and I'll see you next time.